I had to pay off the debt and I couldn't. I was sitting on lots and lots of receivables, didn't get paid. And it was kind of like exhaling and then having your oxygen cut off. Everything stopped. I lost the business and I was in a major, major hole. 20 years of running a business, 10 million in sales, blue chip clients. And now I'd lost everything. I lost my wife. I lost my family. I lost this business and I was sitting on a mountain of debt with no clients and no customers. And now it was a brand new day on how to figure out how to get through this.
Welcome to Entrepreneurism. I'm your host, Scott Pollock, a seasoned business leader, entrepreneur, and CEO coach with a passion for helping others achieve success in their entrepreneurial journeys. On this show, we dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, uncovering why so many struggle and revealing what the most successful do differently. True entrepreneurs have unique superpowers, including the ability to spot hidden business opportunities and convert them into thriving ventures. For most mere mortals, this ability is absolutely unfathomable. But these same strengths can become sources of struggle, whether it's pursuing multiple opportunities without losing focus, scaling without eroding culture, or balancing short-term demands with long-term vision. The entrepreneur's journey is full of tensions. Here we explore critical factors that drive entrepreneurial success: how to stay focused, manage resources, build strong teams, and develop the resilience to navigate the ups and downs of the journey. Bold ideas, candid conversations, and insights that will help you unlock your full potential. Ready to learn and grow, expand your toolkit, and discover actionable strategies to help you navigate your own entrepreneurism? Let's dive in. On the podcast today, I'm excited to have Scott Empringham, an entrepreneur who's got an amazing story of grit and determination. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for having me, Scott. I appreciate it.
Scott is the owner and CEO of Empringham Media Group, which can be characterized as a next-gen digital marketing and lead generation business that leverages AI in just about everything they do. I met Scott last year when EO Shanghai brought him to do a keynote and a workshop for its entrepreneur members, and I was blown away by his story. And I want to let him tell it. So, Scott, perhaps you can talk briefly about how you started your entrepreneurial journey, as well as the major twists your life and journey took in 2018.
I'd be happy to. I do have some breaking news for you too, is I'm talking to your learning chair about coming back to Shanghai and doing a whole tour through Korea, Japan, Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. But this time it's going to be a little bit different. It's a 2-day workshop where day one are all the same strategies, tools, but it's specific to Asia. But day two is implementation and execution. We're calling in a couple of agencies, so there's going to be working pods. So everybody's actually going to get all their stuff executed. By the second day, it's done. Ads, emails, blogs, everything done using AI. This is going to be an epic, epic thing. It's a first, and you're hearing about it. I just talked to your learning chair. So Shanghai is going to be getting a 2-day immersion execution. Everybody leaves all their stuff. So this is going to be an epic first.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll be great. That'll be great.
So to answer the question, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I was, always as a young man, stenciling addresses on curbs and doing things to make some extra money. And even as a teen and a 20-year-old guy, I was starting little companies here and there. But things really kind of caught fire for me when I started a marketing agency 20 some odd years ago, 25, 27 years ago. And that built and built and built and morphed into a social media agency. And it was a great time. Clients like Ford, Chrysler, GM, Toyota really went into the automotive space and grew there. And of course, that's when things took a turn. But my agency there really was about social media, about lead gen, and generating just lots of leads for clients of all types. But auto was a specific niche.
Awesome. And so, you built that agency early on, and I know that there were some twists and turns between then and now with the business that you've got today. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, like a lot of entrepreneur journeys, it's not always a straight line. That's for sure. I was in Las Vegas accepting the award. They called me the $1 billion man. I'd helped a one car company sell $1 billion worth of cars and trucks on social media alone. And about a week later, I was in the middle of two of the biggest messes and bombs that dropped in my life. Number one is my wife had filed for divorce and my family was coming apart. So that was a major hit after all the success, 20 years of building a company. And then I thought to myself, well, that's awful. It's horrible. It's a gut wrenching experience, but at least I have my business until I lost that too. Two of my largest clients had lost their accounts. I got caught in the middle of a cash crunch, holding a lot of the cash, a lot of the debt for media that we were buying. And my agency stopped paying me. I had to pay off the debt and I couldn't. I was sitting on lots and lots of receivables, didn't get paid. And it was kind of like exhaling and then having your oxygen cut off. Everything stopped. I lost the business and I was in a major, major hole. 20 years of running a business, 10 million in sales, blue chip clients, and now I'd lost everything. I lost my wife, I'd lost my family, I lost this business, and I was sitting on a mountain of debt with no clients and no customers. And now it was a brand new day on how to figure out how to get through this.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of entrepreneurs for sure. Well, all entrepreneurs, I would say, know that it's not a straight line and know that there's the ups and the downs, but that's a pretty big down. So
It was
talk about how you worked through that, because I think grit and determination certainly characterizes what came next.
For sure. And I think actually, as I think about it, and I've been asked this question a lot, there's no question that grit and determination were part of it. There's one other ingredient that
Mm.
that I think is equally important to recognize. And Jordan Peterson and other folks talk about it. And it's one of the most unrecognized and underappreciated qualities, and it's humility. And I'll give you an example. When I lost my marriage, I lost my family, I lost the business. Uh, One of the biggest challenges I had was being humble enough to start small again, to think
Mm.
about the small steps I could take. Now, picture this, you're under this massive amount of debt. Your life has come apart at the seams. You had a lot of homes, and now you're down to one, and you may lose that. You have all these clients and all these customers and all these awards, all this notoriety, and now you have nothing. And for me, when I was looking up at this mountain I had to climb, it was debilitating. It was something that was so overwhelming. It was so awful. And then I had to start asking myself questions like, what am I doing right now that are keeping me from actually getting back on the horse? I was drinking too much. I was using sleeping pills. I was doing a lot of stupid things. And for me, part of it was just being humble enough to say, I need to cut out the alcohol. Like forget about rebuilding the business and doing all this crazy stuff and coming up with these plans. Like,
Mm.
what the hell can I do to start getting back? And I'm talking about goals, Scott. It's embarrassing how small they were. Do you remember that one guy who talks about he's like a general or something? He talks about you want to change the world, start by making your bed. That
Yeah.
famous video that went around. Dude, that's where I was. I was
Yeah.
so underwater and I couldn't see possibly how I was going to get out of this. I had to start getting momentum again with things that I could control. Start by making my bed. Start by reading some scripture in the morning. Start by filling my head up with some positive things. Start by getting in my desk for 15 minutes and trying to sift through some paperwork and seeing what snakes were in the paperwork because I couldn't even sit down at my desk.
Yeah.
And so getting my ass in that seat was, believe it or not, that was a goal, to just get in the seat, to get up, to get out of bed. And I started to work. I started an early wake up time. I'm talking, I was like 4 o'clock in those days, and I'm at 3, but it was 4 o'clock. I'm going to get up and just get the fuck out of bed because I want to just lay around. I mean, I got
Yeah.
no business. I got no customers. I got nothing. So it was just having the humility to start so small that they were the smallest goals I could possibly conceive of, but it gave me some positive momentum and a new direction. I could build on those small things. It started with those things, started with the small client, and it started with just step by step by step, building and building and getting momentum again.
Yeah. I mean, the starting by working on yourself is
Yeah,
such an important point. And it's a point that I think too many entrepreneurs lose, whether you're in the ups of the business or the downs of the business. It starts with you as the leader,
yes,
and
yes,
your oxygen mask, which is title of a book. Kevin Lawrence, who's one of my mentors, wrote a book called Your Oxygen Mask First, and it's all about that. That if
100%.
you're not functioning at your best, how can you possibly expect to be influential in your business and to be able to lead your business to where it needs to go? So that's a big one. So
Yeah,
talk about what you did do. I mean, so
you bet.
now you're sitting there, you're working on yourself, you're cutting out the drinking, which I can appreciate. Right now you're able at least to start seeing straight. But what did you see?
Yeah. What I saw was that I needed a new roadmap. I needed to niche down, and I got a call from the bank. I mean, talk about focus. I got a call from the bank and they said, "We're sorry to hear about everything." And they were good friends of mine. They said, "But you have 90 days to start making payments on a line of credit." And the first payment, if I remember correctly, was like 30,000 bucks plus private school, plus my mortgage, plus all the other stuff that was happening. And I had no money. And that focused me. And then when you have the clock ticking and you have about 90 days to come up with a specific dollar amount, this isn't like a wish or a hope, but you have a fuse that's lit. And if you miss this payment, they're going to foreclose on your home. I got laser focused and I wrote down a plan. And it's nothing real fancy that anybody couldn't come up with, but it was started off with a 7-sentence guerrilla marketing plan by J. Conrad Levinson. I'd used that for years, and it starts with an ideal customer. But what's different about this, it wasn't an exercise in just a hypothetical. It was an exercise in specificity. Who was my ideal customer and who in that ideal customer set had a specific need for my skill set right now. I was looking for the riches and the niches, the people that were wanting to make a transaction with me right now. And I got laser focused and I niched down, and built a plan around them, which is now, interestingly enough, what I call the elite marketing method. But this plan started with laser focused on a niche, and then I sub niche down. I was then very, very clear on exactly who I was looking for,
Mhm.
identify the audience, and then I created messages and offers and hooks specific to that audience, and then started hammering that audience day after day after day after day. And in 88 days, I paid off the $500,000 loan. And in doing that, I got new momentum. And part of that process was coming up with a course, a social media course, and a
Mhm.
coaching program. Back to the niche just really fast. I had the social media agency. All these companies had come to me, small businesses had come to me and said, "Scott, could you teach me or could you take me on as a client and handle my social media?" And I'd been too big for them. It wasn't a good deal for them. It wasn't a good deal for me. When I lost everything, I took a step back and I thought all these people had come to me and asked me, could I help them? And I thought my first reaction was my old model wasn't going to work. But what if I came up with a new model, like a
Yep.
course at that time and a coaching program, low price point, lots of value, lots of traction, a do it yourself, but a do it with you model. I went after that audience and immediately it just blew up. And that low ticket offer ended up building my company up, generating lots of revenue fast and bringing back clients. And that became the on ramp to rebuild my company.
That's a great story, and certainly that kind of focus, that laser focus, as you put it, is so critical for all kinds of companies. I mean, a lot of the tech companies I work with, I think about it as the crossing the chasm, concept that if you don't dominate a niche first, how you can get referenceability into that early majority. A lot of these tech companies, I mean, it's the reality. You start with early adopters, and a lot of tech companies get early adopters in all these different niches just because it happens this way. And then, they say, look, I've got 50 customers or 100 customers, but the reality is they're not referencing each other. There's no snowball. There's nothing
Yeah.
rolling.
Right.
So, what you're talking
And it
about.
takes
is so key.
It's so it takes sacrifice too, because you have to be willing to say no to all these other markets. And
Yeah.
few companies are actually, or CEOs or executives or marketing folks are actually willing to sacrifice all those other markets to commit to stake their fortune and fame and future for the next 100 days or 365 days or quarter even on one specific sub niche. But when
Yeah.
you do that, as I had the opportunity or the need to do, they say that necessity is the mother of invention. For me, that necessity made me get very clear on not a hypothetical group of sub niches, but one sub niche that needed my services now, was able, willing, and wanting to make a transaction. And I mapped that back to how many of those customers am I going to need? And I did the math and I said, okay, I need 100 of those and probably 200 of these. Where are they? And EO and YPO and some other groups said, this is my tribe. I'm going to
Yeah.
go into this tribe and make these crazy offers.
Awesome. So fast forward a bit, right? So you started this pre-COVID. I think
Yeah.
everyone thinks in terms of pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? The eras. And then, today, I know that AI is a big part of everything you do. And, you know,
Yes.
your well, let me put it to you. Your superpower is what, and how is AI just totally enhancing that and putting that on steroids today?
Yeah. Great question. I'll answer it this way is, in rebuilding my company, I developed a 10-step roadmap that I initially introduced to small businesses as a way to just kind of paint by numbers and launch their social media campaign. But to launch a great social media campaign, you need strategy. You need ideal customer profile, you need your core messages, you need your offer ladder, you need your budgets, you need all that strategy locked in before you create all these ads and emails and things like that. I had that blueprint in place, and then comes AI. And I was a beneficiary of getting my butt kicked and losing everything and still having a very small team, and looking at this and saying, oh my gosh, I've got this 10-step kind of roadmap, 1, 2, 3 through 10. What if I could use AI to eliminate the cost and the agency fees and the time associated with each one of these steps? For example, in the old days, to come up with a really strong ideal customer profile and the sub niches, it would take $5,000 and maybe 30 days or 45 days, lots of research back for the agency. We can get that in seconds. So part of what I was able to do is take that 10-step roadmap, marry it up with some copy and paste prompts that anybody could use,
Yep.
and part of my, I'll call it superpower, was figuring out a way to do that and offer it to people in the most basic version that anybody could do. If you could copy and paste and then personalize the prompts by answering like 4 questions that every business owner knows about their business, you could do this. And I had the ability to do that because I was doing all these workshops every month with hundreds of businesses, and I could try it every month, and I could see immediately what worked or what didn't. If it didn't work, I threw it out. If it did work, I kept it and built on it. And in the end, after about 90 days, 120 days, after doing this with thousands of businesses, I was able to take a basic 10-step blueprint, a marketing blueprint, apply it to any business. And then as different AI tools came out, I would apply them to the appropriate steps in that process. And now we've got a full-blown AI course, the Elite AI Marketing Method. We go around the world. We're in Shanghai, Mexico, US, all over Europe. And small businesses are using this dirt simple 10-step approach to apply AI in their business and unlock all the growth that they always hope to at a nothing cost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I experienced it in the workshop that you did last year in Shanghai. No doubt that it's almost mind-boggling, when as a marketeer myself, and for that matter, a digital marketeer, how far we've come. That a lot of the things that used to take weeks now take minutes, and
Yeah.
it is amazing. So I mean, the way I see it in many ways is that you are the AI driven leader. That's from the book by that title that Jeff Woods came out with not long ago, which I think is actually one of the better books in the space. You're using it all throughout, from the personal productivity to the team and organizational productivity to your strategy. So talk a little bit about, you already said how AI is at the center of much of your offering, but how is it helping you overcome struggles within the business?
Mm.
Talk a little bit about that.
Couple of things we did is I'm a big fan of the management system EOS traction.
Yep.
And I love, of course, scaling up. And I love the book by Gary Keller, The One Thing. And so as I started working with all these businesses, and literally it's been over 1,000 businesses all over the world, the one thing that without exception people struggled with was their top marketing objectives. If I was to say to any business owner, what is your overarching mission for the next 90 days? And what are your top 3 to 5 rocks? After I'd clarify the symbolism or the metaphor of the rocks and the key
Yep.
objectives, they would say, well, it's to grow this and to grow that. And I want more sales, but it wouldn't be specific 9 out of 10 times. It wouldn't be measurable. It wouldn't be attainable, realistic, and time bound. And it wouldn't have an owner who in the business was going to do that and how they were going to be measured by it. And what does done actually mean? What is the definition of done? Little things like that. So what I did is I created a GPT that now when somebody gets onboarded into our course, into our coaching program, step one is I walk them through the GPT, and it's a 40-minute process. Scott, it's the most unbelievable process because from that Q&A with the GPT and us, they'll get clarity that they've never had before on their 3 to 5 rocks. So now when we start out and we say, okay, it's May 1st, where do you want to be in June, July, August? Where do you want to be in July? They go, those 3 things. If I could do those 3 things in the next 90 days,
Yep.
I would be beyond excited. They have clarity on it. It sounds so simple, but nobody does it. But we actually do that in our program. And that has been the game changer. That one GPT, that changed my business. I could see it changing their businesses. And then you could add a board of directors into it to see Scott Pollock's blind spots, Scott Empringham's blind spots. So on top of this GPT that they get, the X100 Growth GPT, not only does it have the wisdom of the scaling up in there, not only does it have the wisdom of the one thing and the wisdom of EOS and that sort of tactical guide that's going to walk you through it, but it has blind spots and it reduces your rocks to your one thing. And as you go with your weekly VFT meetings, your weekly vital factor meetings, and your quarterly meetings, when you rerun it, you have a blind spot board that you could create that also points out your blind spots. I'm using that in my personal life. And now I'll drive. I drove up to LA. Instead of sitting in traffic for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'll flip it on, push dictate, or turn on ChatGPT. I'll access that. It knows my business, and I'll talk through some of my rocks. Here's where I'm struggling. I'm struggling on this one rock. I haven't got it. And what do you suggest? What are my blind spots? And it points things out. I'm like, oh my God, that's so simple when I missed it. And then I can incorporate that just like that into my new plan and on my morning huddles. Hey guys, we're going to make a shift on this one thing. I'll give you something so dumb. This is so dumb. One of my number one things was to follow up on proposals that I had out, but I wasn't following up on. So my one thing was I had hundreds of thousands of dollars just sitting there with some of these big contracts where we do these proposals and I wasn't following up properly. So my one thing was this is crazy early, but from 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning, that's my one thing. 40 minutes a day, just follow up on proposals. And then I've got my normal meeting. I wasn't doing it. I kept missing because my workouts would be a little bit longer. And I kept struggling to try to force that in, and I wasn't doing it. And finally, ChatGPT, I took a screen grab of my calendar, uploaded it, and said, what am I missing here? And they said, dude, at 1:00. You're open almost every day at 1:00. Idiot. Dope. It didn't call me names, thank goodness. But it just pointed out, make it super obvious. Your plan
Yeah.
B is 1:00. Do that. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And it gave me some other ideas. And having that coach share with you your blind spots and having the wisdom of all these books accessible in seconds for free is like a
Yep.
game changer. If a business owner isn't taking advantage of this, he or she will get beat by someone who is every time.
For sure. And you're talking my language. I mean, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. That's the Stephen
So
R.
hard.
Covey
Yeah,
version of it,
that's it.
right? But it's yeah, absolutely. I mean, priorities are so critical. And by the way, you're saying ChatGPT becomes a great coach. I will say that as a coach, I'm partnering all the time with AI, and it,
Yes.
it helps enhance, because again, I'm bringing my intuition and my experience to the coaching relationships that I have. But of
Yes.
course, I'm not looking at AI as a threat. I'm looking at it as an enhancement. And I
100%.
think that's the people equation has changed. I've been emphasizing this for a while now, but it's, everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but I talk about A players. And
Hmm.
and if you're not trying to, fill your team with A players, and you're allowing B's and C's to stick around, you're just eroding the potential that you have in your business. But today, I think it's different. It's no longer just A players. It's A players plus AI, and that's where there's just exponential potential.
Yeah.
And you need people who are willing to embrace it, and willing to leverage it.
Yeah. And I love what you said too. I think there's a critical role that people can play in the equation. As a coach, I'm a coach on the marketing side. And one of the things I started to fill as a role is being very direct with feedback. I'm not their friend in this example. I want to be their friend, but I want to be friendly. But sometimes someone needs some very direct feedback that maybe AI won't give them. And I'll give you just a quick example. A woman joined our program, an amazingly smart and talented woman in her field, incredible, top of her game. The first weekend of the program, she would have doubts about her skill set and say, maybe this isn't for me. I need to quit.
Yeah.
And every week you could just see she was quitting and quitting and quitting. And there's a great story of the dabbler, the stressor, and the master. The dabbler is somebody who does something for a little while and then they get bored and they try something else. The stressor, unfortunately, suffers from something different. They stress about every detail,
Yeah.
so much so that they burn themselves out, and then the master's willing to take 2 steps back to make 1 step forward. But she was a stressor. And I finally said to her during a private coaching call, stop it,
Yeah.
stop it. For 100 days, you're not going to talk about quitting. You're not going to talk about quitting. Stop it right now. I don't want to listen to it again. For the next 100 days, we're going to put our head down. Let's get our rocks. Shut the heck up. No quitting, and just keep your head down. And she's like, okay, I got it. I got it. But I had to be
Yeah.
very direct because that was where I saw the personal relationship. She cared. She knew I cared. She knew I cared deeply. I wanted her to win, but she was getting in her own way. And I don't
Yeah.
know if ChatGPT would
No,
have had that conversation.
it's
She would have had that question.
that is the difference. And as coaches, we have that obligation to be direct, and to hold. I say it all the time. My clients are all heads of their businesses, right? It's CEOs or chairmen who don't have anyone holding them accountable. And we as coaches, if they trust us to be their coach, we have to hold them
Yeah.
accountable. We
Yeah.
have to play that role, and that's what they want. By the way, the
Yeah.
ones who really want to coach, they want someone to hold them accountable. So
Yeah.
that's an important point. I want to shift, because this is amazing. I mean, I think we could probably go on for hours here, but I want to make sure that we get in some quick fire entrepreneur hacks, as it were. So what's one book? You've already come up with a bunch, but what's one book every entrepreneur should read?
No question. The one thing by Gary Keller. It sounds simple to keep the main thing, but I think he has a great question. It's what's the one thing I could do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Answering that question is difficult. If you use ChatGPT and some of the tools out there, you can get some ideas and then focus on that one thing and then hammer that one thing every day. If you do that, that's that small thing
Yep.
that leads to big things. And that's
Yep.
made a big difference in
I
my life.
I I use that question, by the way, all the time, with
Yeah.
clients. So our
Yeah.
quarterly planning, our annual planning, we're asking that question all the time. What's one thing you do every morning to set yourself up for success?
Mm. Before I open my inbox, I open my Bible. For me,
Mhm.
you've got to build the business, you got to build the man. We talked about that. For me, when I lost everything, I realized I could build the business. What I needed to focus on was the man. And
Yep.
in focusing on the man, day in and day out, the daily habits, and I have 4 core pillars in my life: faith, fitness, family, and finances. And ironically, finances for me is last, and it's flourishing. But it's a daily investment in those 4 pillars. But for me to build the business, you build the man. I open my Bible before my inbox. I armor myself with spiritual thoughts, positive thoughts, encouraging thoughts, and I can win the day. I do
Yeah.
that first thing in the morning, and that's a game changer for me.
I absolutely love that. When I made my transition from player to coach, essentially from entrepreneur to coaching entrepreneurs, I wrote a 1-page personal plan. And it was all about in those horizons, what's most important, not business first, but rather, in the context of everything. So, you've got your work, you've got your life, and you've got yourself.
Yeah.
And writing a plan and focusing across those horizons, and then saying where does work fit? I love that. That's so important. Um,
It's so true. And Scott, guys just as well as I do, guys and gals, when their personal life and their family life is on the rocks, it's virtually guaranteed that they're going to be struggling in the office with clients. It's very, very difficult to have that kind of heat and pressure on the outside, dealing with clients and all the challenges that running a business, and then coming home and having discord and disharmony and frustration and hurt and pain when a man or woman doesn't have any place to cool off, to cool down, to come home. That's a tough spot to be.
yeah, it is. So what's a tool or app you can't live without?
Oh, that would be something that wasn't built in Silicon Valley. It was built by my 15-year-old daughter. It's my X100 app. During a live group coaching call with my mastermind, the folks in my program, we're going through an app called Lovable.dev. It's text to app built in minutes. We actually helped someone on the call build an app that would have cost $5, $10, $15,000 and taken months to build. We helped him build it and install it on his website in 45 minutes on our call. My daughter was home that day, and she said, "Dad, you have this thing called X100, this program where it's a daily routine of faith, fitness, family, and finances. You should build an app for it." I said, yeah. I said, "You do it." She goes, "Could I do it with that thing called Lovable?" I said, "Sure." She says, "I need your credit card for $20 or something," whatever it was, like the next
Yep.
day. And I said, "Fine." 2 days later, it's on my Instagram account, it's on my Facebook, on my TikTok, everything else. 2 days later, she calls me. She does this beautiful video on her phone. "Dad, I did it. I launched it." And I get this text from her. She's freaking out. Her little girlfriend is sitting next to her. She goes, "Check your phone. I just sent you the link." She sends me the link to X100, and we're going to put it on it's a mobile app. She
Yep.
built it. It allows you to track all your core habits. It's the rules, everything. She built an app, 2 days, and it's my favorite app. And I use it today. I'm on day 38 of my X100 program, 100 days of total focus on the 4 core areas of my life. And it keeps track, it keeps score. You can invite friends, but that's my favorite app. It's my daughter's
Amazing.
app. So I'm
Amazing.
partial to
And a great story to go with it. What
it.
what daily habit keeps you grounded?
Mhm. Since I already said, before I open my email, I open my Bible, I'll say something different, and it's exercise. It's
Yeah.
exercise. I don't want to do it. Some workouts I absolutely hate, but every day, 6 days a week, I don't care what it takes. I will get my workout done. And I was traveling to Virginia, me and my son, he's now 12. He's doing X100 with me, and there's burpees, push-ups, planks, air squats, and jumping jacks. We get to the hotel. He says, "Dad, are we going to miss a day?" I said, "No, let's just bust it out." We busted it out. We did our workout. We hated every second of it. He got ice cream downstairs, but it's a daily commitment to exercise. Just as a reminder, I'm only as effective as my body will allow me to. And I'm not out to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I do commit to daily exercise. And I could go into an exercise routine feeling like absolute garbage, poop, dead. but it's like a big electrical plant. You could feel the lights coming on, and by the end of the workout, I've never, ever, ever once said, dang, I wish I didn't do that. I always feel better, and I'm ready to go.
I love that. That's a great one. And last, what's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
I thought about this one. From a marketing perspective, it's the riches are in the niches.
Hmm.
It's the hardest thing to do. Everybody says, got it, and then they ignore it. But if and when you really can niche down and say, that is the market, that I am going to be the big fish in that small pond, and then expand that pond. When you do that, money comes fast, service grows, offers can be amazing, they get clarified. You can be that big fish in that small pond and have great messaging, great offers, unique offers that they'll see them and go, oh my God, I'd be crazy not to do that. You'll start transacting business more quickly and easily and have more fun and then grow from there. It's Amazon starting with books, but it's Empringham starting with this one thing. So the riches are in the niches, and they really are. And very few people actually practice that. And that's your advantage.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's a great one to end on for today. Scott, you were amazing when I saw you live in Shanghai, and you certainly didn't disappoint today on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Brother, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And to my listeners, we've got many more amazing guests lined up. Please subscribe, leave feedback, and share this episode in your feeds. Until next time. Thanks for listening. Remember, entrepreneurship isn't just about spotting opportunities. It's about taking disciplined action to bring them to life. Hope you'll join again next time as we continue to unpack the complexities of entrepreneurism.